Cruella De Vil, Cruella De... You know what? I can't. What? I'm under contract? Since when? You owe me? This is just a hobby. I'm not even making money out of it. Oh, just because it's Disney? I'm talking about Disney, that means that whatever I do, you owe me? Fine. I do it to protest. Cruella. The Disney answer are probably answered by people who are mocking it to Warner Brothers Joker. Or in this case, Disney's continuing way to find excuses to find the good side of a villain. Kind of like they did with Maleficent. Okay, I bet that you are here and saying, oh no, this is another one of those videos of you making another Disney hating video. But honestly, I think the media has enough Disney love and we need something to counter it up. I'm just being honest. And from what you can tell, I went to see Cruella because I still have the curiosity to at least watch a movie to have points to see how I can defend my distaste to this Disney's ploy. And from what you can tell, wow, I hated it. I hated this freaking movie. I was so pissed that, no joke, I even almost filed a complaint to the movie theater for having to go to distribute this film. And another thing that I want to tell you is that I was so pissed off at this movie that I didn't want it to be on the camera just going out in this blind rage. So much that I wanted to give myself some time to breathe and think. I even took a nap. And lo and behold, I am much calmer right now, but I still hate this film. This is another one of those movies in which I didn't even bother to watch other reviewers too, because it's gonna be obvious that they always want to be on the good side of Disney, and they always gonna give it kind of like positive reviews. Although I did hear that it's having some negative reviews, only to be, but honestly, I don't believe this. I don't believe that. I bet it's gonna have positive reviews, because as long as people want it to be on Disney's good side, it's gonna have always a lot of positive reviews. They're saying that, oh yeah, it's gonna be, it is adequate. It's gonna be fun for children. It's just lighthearted fun. I got lots of problems with this movie more than you wanted to appeal and the kind of like the community, but man, for right now, I am actually struggling which was the worst Disney stuff that I've seen this year. I am having a balance between Flora and Ulysses, which is an insult to superheroes, or Cruella, which in this case is an insult to the character itself, or even the original writer, or even, how can I say, the Disney version of the Disney movie that people technically kind of have a love to this film. I did watch 101 Dalmatians many years ago, and honestly, it's not one of my favorites. Mostly because I am more of a cat person and a dog person. Although, yeah, Cruella is one of the most memorable villains of, and not only in the Disney universe, but also in not only in this movie, but also in the Disney universe. I also saw the live-action version of 101 Dalmatians, which what was the name of the actress? The actress, she was kind of like the highlight of the live action film, even though the movie is totally inferior compared to the animated version. Also, it hasn't been many years that I haven't seen it. There is a TV series based on 101 Dalmatians. Honestly, I saw a couple of episodes, and to be fair, I don't like it. I didn't like the TV series. But this is more kind of like a personal thing, because I wasn't very in love with the cast or the settings. 101 Dalmatians wasn't my thing. I heard people that it's an underrated TV show, and people technically kind of like it. But unfortunately, I didn't think that it was a show for me, so I just so the TV series of 101 Dalmatians wasn't for me. But now that this exists, I'd rather have a marathon of that movie. Hell, I'd rather have a marathon of that TV series. Hell, I even want watch again the live action film, because this movie is beyond insulting. Not only about the character, is that it felt like it wanted to be too artsy for its own good. It wanted to make the character look like like we should pity it, but it made a lot of things that it didn't work. And for the most part, I find it really soulless yet preachy, yet so manufactured product that is probably one of the most mean-spirited movies I have seen from the Disney remakes. But if I want to be fair, I think that Disney did worse. I found this worse than Aladdin. I found it, how can I say, a little bit better than Aladdin. I found it Aladdin worse. I think that it could go a little bit, how could I say that, because there's so many of those Disney movies that I hate. It could be kind of like be in between at the Aladdin movie and the Lion King movie, both the live action or whatever Lion King you want to say. So anyway, I think I should consider this another therapy session on this vlog, where I give my complaints of why Cruella is just technically a knockoff. So the movie itself, it wanted to be a prequel to the 101 Dalmatians movie. Oh my god, and I knew right on the start that the movie is gonna try really, really hard to try to make us feel bad for our main character. And it fails. It fails. Because first off, we have this opening in which you see Little Miss Cruella, or scratch that, Little Miss Estella, who for some reason, she was born with a black and white hair. And somehow, she's treated like she is treated like she's an anomaly. Just because of black and white hair. In which, even if we want to buy that she's gonna be bullied by children because of her hair. It's almost like in this world, never heard of the word hair dye. Maybe because the world, because honestly, I'll get to that in a second when I talk about where this freaking movie takes place. Apparently there was a moment in which you see kind of like there's the chance that you could dye the hair. Why didn't they do that? They wanted to hide that. It's almost like it is impossible. Or it was like, oh, but you like your hair, you keep your hair or something like that. And guess what? The whole movie makes us think that we want to feel bad for this character because we only see barely moments of her and her mother. And there were no, both they're acting like psychopaths. Because apparently someone like, she had kind of like, hey, I have kind of like a bad sign and that I call Cruella, kind of like they wanted to make her like she has double personality, which the movie basically didn't treat it like it had that. We are supposed to feel bad for these characters when no, it's a character that isn't acting bad, and there's this narration in which it's like, well, you don't understand genius. Well, you know that psychopaths can also be genius, but it shows but the way they show it is it's so unlikable that I don't buy anything. Okay, but okay, we're talking about Cruella or Estella, and we are supposed to be, this is the origin of a villain. So basically, the movie shows a little bit more of the origin, in which apparently they wanted to move out of town, but before that they passed through this big mansion in the middle of a cliff, which I swear to Christ that I swear that this is the same mansion of Artemis Fowl. Maybe I'm crazy, but every time that mansion appears, Artemis Fowl came to my mind because it feels like it is in this setting. So basically they entered there, which apparently they're filming the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And apparently some shenanigans happened because Miss Estella also has a dog. The dog kind of do a lot of things. She's been kicked out by Mark Strong. And then apparently she kind of becomes a little bit responsible because she's been chased out by three very bad CGI Dalmatians. These three Dalmatians, they push the mother out of a cliff. And honestly, I I was laughing. I know that it was supposed to be dramatic, but the way it happened, it was like... I know. It was kind of... I just kind of laughed because the timing was so absurd, and considering that there were real 3 bad CGI, and the movie wanted to treat this moment that it is really shocking for our main character when we didn't even have an ounce of moments in which they can show that this character and the daughter had a good relationship. No, they didn't. It failed to deliver that. So basically, then little Mrs. Stella then she runs away from these people. She loses a ruby necklace that apparently it was a memento from her mother, and she reaches London. She becomes homeless, and then she meets John, Jasper, and Horace. Which, if you know, these are Cruella's cohorts, and they're in the original book that I didn't read, and of course the original Disney movie. Which this kind of begs the question, because in many of our known incarnations, we know that Cruella is supposed to be kind of like an older woman compared to Jasper and Horace. So basically, then they begin to these three becomes between scam artists / burglars. While she's very fashionable, somehow she becomes to lead all 3 of them. They become this trio of burglars until, of course, Mrs. Stella grows into Emma Stone. And after that, of course, she tries to get a job in the fashion design business because she wants to be a fashion designer. She gets a gig in this fashion designer store. She is being treated badly by this son of an asshole who she wants to give out kind of like an idea, and he's like, no, I'm busy, clean this, go clean this, clean this. And even when he's on a break, he's like, don't bother me. But he does it in the most cartoonish way possible, to the point that one day Estella gets so pissed off of a lot of that injustice, so much that she gets drunk and she vandalizes one of those exhibition clothes by the window. But she makes it so artsy that, first of all, she was about to get fired until she gets the attention of this really powerful woman played by Emma Thompson, which doesn't have a name. She's only known as the Baroness, not the villain from G.I. Joe, mind you. She basically is like, oh, you fire a good artist, so now she's mine. Here's my business card. And from then on, Estella works under the Baroness' wings, in which she does all these designs. But little by little, she finds out that there is not exactly too much glamour on this woman, because she's so much into her. She's always wanted to be so perfect. Almost like someone had the idea to make the Baroness more Cruella than Cruella herself. I'll get to that in a bit. But suddenly, let's say that between this, technically, then we got Cruella, Jasper, and Horace, and the two dogs. And yeah, there's dogs there who are sometimes they plan heists. They want to show the woman that she's a great fashion designer, and also that they find out that there is something really shady with this woman, and it is revealed that the Baroness, she basically has the necklace from that Estella lost years ago, and she wants to steal it. Then we got this elaborate heist in which you see in the trailer, because she doesn't want to see her as to be revealed as an alien or something like that. She decides to take the nickname of Cruella without her wig and all this. And by the way, this is only kind of like part of the movie. And you know what? I don't care. I will spoil a lot of this movie because this movie doesn't deserve to be watched. And I'm here to tell you about it. Well, maybe you can watch it if you want to. Because honestly, there are times that I can admit that there are some parts that it can be unintentionally hilarious. Let me get out of the way before I continue to dump this movie by saying that the acting is you can tell a lot with this list of actors that I don't want to say that they're horrible actors, but I want to tell them that the actors, I don't know if you can say that it's good acting or bad acting when, like, almost every single live action Disney film, their acting is more, I think that is, well, I don't think it's definitely that. I am pretty convinced that what they're trying to do is that they're trying to imitate cartoons instead of people. And when you imitate cartoons, it backfires in a way that is somewhat kind of embarrassing. Because, let's face it, when you see a child or even a grown man who then begins to act like a child, it's embarrassing. So honestly, when you watch it in a movie, you might say that, oh well, but they're on the screen, they're acting like somebody like they listen or something like that. Yeah, but think that there is indeed there is a feedback in which when you see someone acting like a cartoon how can I say on the screen and it's not animated, there's something that it loses its charm, which I think that animation is beneficial, that it can allow much more exaggerations than this one. And when you and man, that I wish that sometimes we can act out like like cartoons sometimes, because it will make life less boring. Although in this case, man, that there are times in which the actors kind of act really overact. Although I grant them that every time they kind of give out this kind of like slimy smile, mostly from the villains or cruel people, I gotta admit that it kind of works. I mean, man, and Emma Stone, she does fine, but it's not exactly spectacular, I'll say. Okay, continuing on with the film is that one of the most infuriating things that this movie has is the way it wanted to go with its art direction. Because first of all, this movie almost never takes a break from having contemporary rock pop music. It slandered almost everywhere. You know, modern songs in which in a way it clashes a lot with the movie setting. And honestly, I wish if they wanted to go to that route, make the setting feel like it. Take for example, Samurai Champloo. This anime, well, it's set into some kind of samurai style era. It did have some of those hip hop-ish music, but also the setting of Samurai Champloo also helps out that it does have some of those stuff in its world. This one isn't. Emma, in this movie, Cruella, all these contemporary movie clashes with a setting that I think that is the 60s or the 70s. I can't tell, but with this music, it kind of clashes, and especially when there's a moment in which it turns into a rock concert. Yeah, I'll leave you to that. There's a moment in which it turns into a literal rock concert. Alright, continuing to spoil the movie, in which they reach the infamous what we see in the trailer. You know, that Cruella appears and then she apparently creates a dress that apparently it reveals itself when you burn it down with a match, which begs the question: how come she doesn't suffer third-degree burns from that spectacle? I don't know. Magic, Disney magic, Disney magic. So she confronts the Baroness while there is this goofy heist between Jasper and Horace, and then it is revealed that the real murderer of her mother was the Baroness herself, because she used a whistle to call off the Dalmatians. And then while running away, we finally get, you know, why Cruella has those poor driving habits. Because why not? It's really lazily established. Oh man. And then of course, Estella / Cruella decides to have her own vendetta onto the Baroness for killing off her mother with that which we barely know, and so basically it kind of turns into a match, kind of like a Batman match between Cruella trying to outstage the Baroness' job as a fashion designer, showing it more lustrous fashion designs, and at the same time she works on her company as Estella, because she wants to go undercover and, you know, seeing her weaknesses here and there. And boy, that then the movie tries to become a little bit more artsy when all the news publications, all the news and everything, they put it, you know, on the walls and everything, you know, kind of like those lousy TV commercials of movies in which, you know, when they add, you know, words like saying, for example, Fantastic Four is the #1 movie of the weekend. Washington Post say is the greatest movie I ever seen. 4-star review. You know these lousy commercials that they phony it all up for publicity's sake to try to convince people even though the movie doesn't even deserve this goal, because probably all the reviews are filtered from criticisms. That's how it turns. Suddenly, and when you see all during this battle of fashion, once in a while you really kind of begin to see that somehow I am pretty convinced that this movie, it was that instead of Emma Stone being the lead actress, I think it was written, they wanted to have Lady Gaga in it. I was convinced of that. Because you know that Lady Gaga had the reputation of having this weird fashion design. I don't know if she still does it, but we all remember her from doing stuff like that. But doing that, I still think that this movie was for her. By the way, you know who they also put in the movie, but they are 100% useless? The pet owners from the 101 Dalmatians, Anita and Roger. Yeah, they're there. And you can remove them from the movie and they wouldn't affect anything. First of all, Anita. They add her there for inclusivity's sake. She barely affects anything of the movie, except that she's kind of like a reporter, and for some reason I just kind of laughed out more on her hair, because her hair is as laughable as the Cruella's hair. No offense, just in case. I just wanted to, laugh out or something like that. And we got also Roger, who he's not. Get this. He's not a pianist like in the animated film. Hell, he's not even a video game designer like in the live action film. He is kind of like the Baroness clumsy assistant, in which later in the movie is like, you're too clumsy, you're fired, and the guy is never seen again. See how useless it was? And, oh god. So again, continuing on with the movie, not only Cruella/Estella decides to, outshine the Baroness out of revenge, because of all these things. She also decides to kidnap the 3 Dalmatians that she has. She kidnaps them, they keep them hostages, and I was actually thinking that, oh boy, now we're gonna know, this is gonna be the start of when she becomes, a real villain. Because one of the things that we remember from Cruella is that she's obsessed with fur coating to the point of animal cruelty. She's a character who is capable of creating fashion design coats with the skin of animals, illegally, just in case. Not only illegally, but painfully and all these things. She's technically kind of like one of the symbols of animal cruelty. So I was waiting for the moment in which she finally turns into, psychotic and kills that. No! This movie decides to puss out, and they keep the dog hostages. Mostly because one of those dogs, it swallows the necklace, and instead of killing the dog, they just wait this dog to poop it out. Cruella De Vil. Even the name is Cruella. No instances. Although the movie wanted to make hinted at and saying that maybe I should turn this dog into cold. No, I just. And every time these dogs appear and they were all hanging around, they were. I was like, when does she kill the dog? Look what this movie's doing to me. It's making me sound like a horrible person, but we're talking about Cruella De Vil! Which, apparently then, we have this kind of like this fashion design war. In which, then, we got this rock and roll moment, which I already mentioned, in which Cruella appears with something that it only has white, it's kind of like a fur with black spots, like a Dalmatian, and the Baron is like almost unemotionally. She turned my dogs into fur coat, and I was like, okay, when did that happen? Because it kind of jumped around, and I kind of didn't see it. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention also that I forgot to mention that apparently Cruella not only has Jasper and Horace as their cohort, but also she befriended this eccentric fashion store guy played by John McCree, and his whole stick is like, oh hello, I'm what do you want or something like that. I'm gonna help you. Probably I will say that as flamboyant as he is probably one of the best actors in the movie. But well, he's just kind of like a third wheel, let's say. Okay, continuing spoiling this dumbass film that is even afraid to go far and beyond to make a Cruella movie. And by the way, after this I will indeed go for a Joker comparison. Oh, just you wait. Because, well, basically, of course, Cruella wants to have revenge on the Baroness because as Stella, she also realizes that the Baroness basically is she basically steals and takes credit of the other artist's creativity. Because apparently it's because it is in her contract that she owns their work and everything. Oh boy, who does it remind me to? Hey Disney, you're preaching me what you are not following your example. I swear that the Baroness if Cruella is kind of like the embodiment of animal cruelty, the Baroness is probably one of the embodiments of the Disney Corporation right at this moment. Continuing spoiling the movie, basically somehow she managed to find Stella/Cruella's hideout and house. She captured Jasper and Horace, who apparently, for some reason in the movie, they were like, but I like Stella more than Cruella. Guys, there was not even an ounce of difference on these two personalities that you wanted to put. And apparently the Baron is like, yeah, I do remember you got that necklace, and so, yeah, I killed your mother, so I can do whatever I do to, be in the line with them. So she burns the house, somehow puts Jasper and Horace in jail instead of killing them, because she only wanted to kill Cruella. Then everyone thinks that Cruella died. But no, she's rescued by Mark Strong, who apparently, this is when the movie kind of begins to put a plot out of their asshole, because then it reveals kind of like the twist saying that, hey, you know that necklace that you had all the time? Well, inside the necklace is a key for a chest that Mark Strong had, in which it had no build-up, no anything. And then it is revealed that the Baroness is the legit mother of Estella. No build up to that. They just pull it out of it. Sorry about that, guys. Don't worry. It wasn't Disney trying to sue me for defamation or something like that. It was actually a family member who wanted to know how I was. So anyway, yeah, this whole thing, it just came out of nowhere without any build-up or something like that. And what really also bothers me is that they wanted to hammer you in saying that Estella was technically kind of like a good woman or something like that, we should feel pity of her, and that she lost her mother or adopted mother like the movie wanted to believe us, because she was saying that she was a sweet, kind woman. Was it? The few moment that we just see her is just doing basic mother things, kind of having this posh attitude. And there was almost like no emotion between, even in the opening, there was almost no emotion between these two characters. So, sweet and kind? No. You only kind of say that because your shitty attitude, basically, your shitty attitude was kind of like a problem for a shitty school that didn't tolerate your technically attitude / your hair, and then she kind of defends you like any other parent goes and saying that, but my kid didn't do anything. I was actually asking for this girl to kind of become like the Michael Myers from the Rob Zombie Halloween. I was almost clear that it was about to be like almost like that. So yeah, basically, Mark Strong apparently then, also without any build-up, he becomes Estella's ally, which the movie technically didn't even earn that. They break out Jasper and Horace, and they come up with a plan in order to have their revenge. But apparently there comes even a scene in which it goes like, Cruella, you can't kill the Baroness. I mean, killing her, it won't come to revenge. Killing her, it will not satisfy your revenge or something like that. Cruella! She's a villain! Is this your excuse, movie? Our beloved Disney villains, they're misunderstood. And how we're gonna remedy that? Easy. Let's make even bigger villains. You tried with Maleficent too, and it blows it. This is also the case, because yeah, the Baroness even on her overacting, it's kind of like the most narcissistic person in the world. Like everything me, all is surrounded by me. She even treats people horribly to the point that I begin to question if this movie has even heard of workers' rights. There is a law about, I think there's a law also called humane rights, because everybody is awful. It's almost like they wanted to outshine the Cruella-ness out of Cruella. Everybody is awful. Everybody are cruel. And you know what? Even our main character doesn't escape that. There are awful people. Probably I will say for the sake of the movie that the only ones that get out scot-free on being awful is Anita and Roger. But they're barely in the movie, so whatever. Then we got this climax in Artemis Fowl's castle, where Cruella managed to fool everyone to wear, you know, the black and white wigs in order to commemorate the death of Cruella, that was spread on the news and everything. The Baroness didn't know, but she tries to play, you know, appealing to the people. Cruella, you know, hides in there. We get, you know, this Ocean 11 moment in which, you know, they make the heist. She calls the police so that police will come in order to lure her in the same exact spot where her adopted mother was pushed by the Dalmatians. She managed to steal the whistle to control the Dalmatians, which, yeah, the Dalmatians are alive, which they were supposed to be dead, considering that it's Cruella. So, yeah. Didn't I mention it? Yeah. That moment in which it was supposed to, you know, we were supposed to believe that she killed the dogs. No, the dogs didn't die. She just had them. Because we don't want to show animal cruelty. First of all, we're talking about Cruella. You Disney, you step on that territory on this character that we know on her animal cruelty. Did I repeating that? You know what? Whatever. Whatever. Cruella dressed up as Estella. She confronts the Baroness in the same spot. She lures him, saying, and she's like, you know, yeah, I'm your mother, and I revealed that, and I made a horrible mistake. No, I didn't. Boo! She pushes her, and because of the whole thing, it was all witnessed by the party goers. So basically, they finally witness murder, and they arrest her. While she's like, no. What about Estella? Well, she actually used this ploy to fake her death as Estella because her costume, it was equipped with a parachute, in which later Horace picks her up on a boat in the middle of the sea. Yeah, the Baroness is arrested. No, she doesn't get killed. And by the way, she also, because of her lineage and everything and some paperwork, she takes the inheritance and the fortunes of the Baroness, in which Cruella also adopts the name De Vil because apparently because they made it a knot on a car almost before that heist. And even the movie thinks that we're so stupid because Horace is like, hey, yeah, De Vil, you know, like he's the devil, wink wink. So yeah. So, no dogs died. Cruella apparently is less Cruella than Cruella herself, because the Baroness is more Cruella than Cruella. They inherited the house. Estella is dead, but Cruella is like, you know what? Now I'm gonna live as Cruella. And the movie ends. I didn't even bother to see if there was some mid-credit scenes or something like that. If it's gonna be, I bet it's gonna be, hey look, Roger and Anita meet, and they're gonna fall in love. And this is a prequel of 101 Dalmatians. Oh! Frank, I hated this movie. And if you let me tell you, you can tell that this movie tries so hard to be Joker. But you know what? At least in Joker, at least they kept a gray area in the realization of this character, because not everything fails on that. Let's compare this Cruella and Joker. The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, yeah, just to be in the clear, just in case. Because first of all, we know that these two characters are basically unlikable in a way. And in villainous sense, they do also have some sense of charisma. But how this movie handled, in which the other one succeeded, is that in the case of Joker, they made him kind of like a man who had mental issues, and he is technically on the pit of despair that gets worse and worse and worse in a cruel society. And for the most part, it still kept on kind of like in this gray area, but in a way you sympathize with that Joker, because is basically kind of relatable, the things that he's going on, and the ways that the things that he says as well, that in what his actions do, it is technically understandable, even though we as an audience, or sometimes Batman fans, we know that he particularly is a dangerous character, and we just see him, build up the stats for that. And in the Joker movie, we also have the benefit that it does build up into that little by little, and that he had this kind of like this relationship with his mother that it becomes charming until the giant twist that happens. And so pretty much it becomes a character that becomes misled to the point of exploding. But in the case of Cruella, we barely see that relationship. It's luckily written to, kind of like a typical Disney film. And then comes up with that plot twist that it just pulls out of your ass, and it's not built like Joker succeeded. And also for the sake, for the continuity and all these things, what Joker did also very well done is that despite that we felt the sympathy of this character, it doesn't excuse that he's still a psycho killer, because he started out killing off 3 people, even though justifiable because there were some bullies, but still you can tell that he becomes so unhinged that it goes beyond that, and his inspiration is because of people who began to embrace the anarchy that Joker brings, because Joker is technically a symbol of anarchy, in which I'm talking kind of like a pretentious artist. But it doesn't work on Cruella because we see this character being really unlikable. It's still unlikable because this character has almost all the mechanisms to to not be Cruella, but she still pushes around. There is the Baroness, of course, who she's kind of like a worse person than Cruella herself. I mean, even in Joker, we have people like kind of like people that are, well, they're cruel, but sometimes they are kind of like in their line of cruelty, like the mean-spirited comedian, and of course we see a little bit of a bad light of Bruce Wayne's father. But of course they kind of put the pieces together that it's technically that. But Cruella, it doesn't work, and it doesn't work that we get this villain who is technically worse than Cruella, but we want to believe that Cruella is technically an origin of the villain, but to make us feel bad for that, it's not, because still Cruella is still known as the animal murderer. Even in Joker, they kept that. That Joker is still a psychopath. But Cruella, no. They tried so hard to redeem itself because they wanted to kind of brush out the family friendliness to make it feel more family friendly. And it comes up as trite. I think that I throw enough shade to this film. I don't recommend this film at all because if they keep because sometimes we as human beings, we want to see the good of people. Sometimes they're not deserving to that. Although, at least for the benefit of the doubt, if you want to have, how can I say, a laughable, laugh out loud movie that is good to roast, this is one of them. This movie can be easily riffed. It does feel like a failed Lady Gaga project that sometimes it wanted to be too artsy with the music, too feminist. But in the writing department, you can tell that it's a Disney film that tries too hard again, and it fails. It totally fails. Personally, I didn't like it a lot. Didn't like it. Just came out of the movie theater really, really pissed. It took me a moment to calm down and finally talk to you, with my thoughts a little bit more clear. Sorry, this movie is not worth it for me.